had started for making bread, we'd be making bread, I had already started my liquid, which is honey in there, and water, and the yeast. And the flour there, it says 5 cups organic. So what I do, I don't measure it. I just put it in there. I'm going to show you all that because some flours are different. It depends what kind of flour you use. Like at home, I use, I have a flour grinder that, like, I use the whole spelt and then I make it into flour. So this one right here I bought at the Cab Market, and it's organic spelt flour. So I may not need as much or I may need less. So you'll see that when I start kneading it. So this is already, have you ever made bread before?
It's been years.
It's been years?
Yeah.
Have you ever made bread, Richard? You have. So you know the process of putting in order for the yeast to rise, you got to have a sweetener in it. So I just put honey in it. And it's already really risen up really nicely now. So now I can add my other ingredients. And so I'm going to add my salt, which is 1.5 teaspoons for this recipe. And I'm going to mix that really well. And it also calls for either flaxseed or oil. I did not bring any extra flaxseed. I usually use flaxseed. I mean, you can use flaxseed or a little bit of oil if you want. So I'm just going to put a little bit of oil in there because I use oil on here too, so it gets more oil.
What kind of oil do you use?
Olive oil. Yeah, I use a virgin. If I do, it's virgin, cold pressed oil, organic. Okay, so now we got all that in there. So what I'm going to do, and I'm going to add the flour. And what I do is I add 1 cup at a time usually. And let's see, do I have my cup there? The measuring cup. And mix it a little bit, and then I add more in there. So you just keep adding it till it gets too thick. It'll get too thick to use your spoons, and that's when I put it on my little mat here, my kneading mat. These come in handy, no. These really do. They really do. So you don't have to worry about it kneading it on your counter. Plus it stays clean that way, you know. You're using the mat. So that's just 1 cup. So I'm going to add more. I know I'm going to use this whole thing, so I'm just going to dump this in here.
Well, then you know what you're fixing to have to eat for the rest of the week. Yeah.
I mean, bread is really easy to make, really. You know, when you start making it, and
Is that
it's
better for you than like the bread stores?
oh yes, definitely a whole lot better. You know, if you don't want to add oil to it, just add some ground flaxseed. I mean, because that way it's, you know, you don't have the oil in there. You don't have to have the oil in there if you don't want to. It's up to you what you want, you know, to put in there. And that's still really too thin. So I'm going to put some more. That's 3 cups so far. I think probably about maybe 2 or 3 so far. I'm going to add that. Yeah, 4. Because when I dumped it in, I don't know how much was in there. Whoop, I got some on over the side. Yeah, it's getting thick now. Whoa, I gotta be careful. Usually at home, I make a double recipe and the bowl is a lot bigger, so this is a little smaller, so I'm making a mess here. Still thick, you know, still not thick enough, you know. You gotta get it real thick where, can they see it down there? Oh yeah, they can.
Oh,
Neat.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, neat. Maybe get this out of the way a little bit. So you can see the texture of it and everything. When it gets kind of thick, you got to be careful not to add too much. Just add a little bit at a time until you get it where you can take it out of here and then start kneading it. And then you can see this flour right here. I made a mess on here, but I can use that flour for when I need it.
When you put the yeast in and you're letting it rise, about how long does it take it to rise?
Probably about 5 to 10 minutes, and it depends on how warm your house is. Now, I recommend you have your house, not cold, because you're going to have a hard time unless, this is what I do at home. I don't know if you have a stove where you can like warm it to like a low temperature, like 170, for like maybe a minute or so. Turn it off, and because you don't want it too hot, and then you can put your if you want to proof it that way, your mixture and your dough too. Yep, you can do it that way. That way it's in a warm temperature, warm. But I do recommend not to have your house cold when you do this, because it's gonna be difficult for the bread to, unless you put it in the oven, warm oven.
I was gonna say, that's what I used to do. I just put it in the oven.
Yeah, just let it warm, proof it, let it rise that way. But then when you're making but I would, to make the yeast mixture and the water in the oven too, because if you let it stay out of the oven and your house is cold, it's going to be hard for it to even, rise. I've done that before, and it's like, no, I'm not going to do that again no more.
Well, I'm glad you told me that.
Yeah. Well, I don't measure, because our flour is different. Every flour is different. That's what you can go by. That's just a guide we can go by. And our flour is different, because I don't know if you're going to use a little bit of unbleached flour in it. I don't know what kind of flour you're going to use. Our flour is different, different textures. So I've had a lot of, even when I buy my spelt, sometimes I don't have to use as much, sometimes I do. I said, what is going on? Why is it like that? And I don't know if it's because of the way it grows. If it's a colder winter, I don't know, but I've had that experience where I didn't have to use hardly as much, and sometimes I do. Now it's getting thick. You can see that, right? It's getting thick. Let me keep it in there. And pretty soon I'm going to put it on the mat and knead it. It's about ready. And you want your dough, you want it where it's thick but not too dry, because if you get too dry, you're going to have dry bread. But you want it sort of like a little sticky, a little stickiness in it before you knead it.
Let me ask you something. Goodwill has them sometimes, and I've been thinking about buying one.
Machine.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Those look good.
Yeah, you can use that too. At home, I use that. I use the I have a Bosch mixer. Any kind of kneading mixer, you can buy them at the store. If you don't want to knead it by hand, I'm just doing it by hand here to show you. Oh, the bread machine. Yeah. Now the bread machine, I'll tell you what, they have different recipes. It's not going to be the same like this. Okay. So you're not going to make bread like this. This is only with a bread mixer, or by kneading by hand.
Okay.
The bread machines usually do it all at once.
Yeah, just a little bit more. Then I'm going to knead it after this. And I keep adding flour on it, because it's about thick. So what I'm going to do, use this right here, this flour that I spilled, made a mess, add a little bit more on the bottom. Spread it a little bit around the mat. So that I put it on there, it won't stick. Because it's kind of still sticky a little bit. So we're just going to, and it's kind of, hard. When it gets kind of hard to, to mix it with your spoon, that's when, I would start kneading by hand.
Okay.
Yeah, let me get that out of the way, because it's pretty thick right now. Okay, so I will start kneading by hand. Put this over here. Now this is what I like. I love kneading. I really do. Sometimes I'd rather use this method than in my mixer. But sometimes if I'm real tired, I'll use my mixer. It depends how I feel.
Yeah,
but
that does give your arms some
yeah,
exercise.
I mean, it's exercise for your arms. Yeah. You roll it out like in a circle, and then I just use these, and like a cookie cutter, and that's how I make my buns.
It's 10 minutes.
And you use them for sandwiches, for toast, anything.
It's 10 minutes now. It was 10 minutes.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna let this rise, and what I do in the bowl, I usually oil it a little bit because it's gonna be really, you know, kind of, you don't want it sticking on there. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of oil on there. So when I take it out, it's not gonna be so sticky. It comes slide right out. So I just put a little all over the bowl. And yeah.
How long do you leave it in there for?
I usually let it rise until usually put a towel on. You want to put a towel on, you know, on there. And when I see it's like gotten maybe this high or so, you know, then I would, you know, start. Timing is different. Depends on your warmth, you know, your house, how warm it is, or the oven. So we're gonna let this rise, and I'm gonna clean up this, get this out of the way, and let Pam show her recipe for the cornbread. And then I'll come back with another recipe later on. Okay, so we're gonna... Hello, we are back home to finish off the last part of our bread making recipe. So it has been pretty much proven for a while now. So I am going to take it out now, and we'll start on kneading it. And what I do, instead of putting it in bread loaves, I use a rolling pin, and I make buns out of it. So what I use for making buns out of this is I use it's a wide mouth lid for mason jars, and this is what I use. And it makes a nice size bun, and after it's finished cooking, we'll let you see the results of it. Let you look at it, see what it looks like. Okay, so we got this done, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to roll it out. So I'm going to plop it, make sure all the air is out, and I'm going to roll it out into a circle. Now, do I have my? Yeah, I need my parchment paper and my baking sheet. Very simple. They come out like that. Yeah, a little bit up more, but right there. Yeah. Okay, let's see. 1, 2, 3. I usually put about 3 in each row. Yeah, we're gonna get, we might even get more than 11. There. Now, what we're going to do next is that we're going to put it in my oven. I have preheated it to about 170 for like a few minutes. I shut it off, and then it's warm. So what I'm going to do is put these buns in the oven, let them rise, and as soon as I think that they're ready, that the size is pretty big, I'm going to start the oven at 340, 350, depends on how hot your oven is. And then I will cook them for about 25 minutes. And usually, yeah, about 25 minutes. If I have 2 pans, usually this is just 1 pan, but if I have 2 pans, I may, like 12 minutes, I may check on them and put the bottom one on the top shelf and the top one on the bottom shelf so that they will brown evenly. So I'm going to put this in the oven now, and we will be back and show you the results. Okay, we think it is ready. Taking it out of the oven, and we'll bring it over there and show you. And these are our buns, right there. You showing it, the buns? Okay. Bye-bye, see you later.